20 crops that grow in winter and withstand frost. Hello, herbalists.
What if I told you that winter doesn't have to be the end of the growing season? That while everyone else watches their garden freeze and die, you could be harvesting fresh, nutritious food during the coldest months of the year. I'm talking about plants that laugh in the face of frost, that taste better after freezing, that keep producing when the temperature drops below zero. Most people assume that winter gardening is impossible, but there are crops that not only survive the extreme cold, but need it to reach their full potential. Crops that improve in flavor after frost, that withstand temperatures that would kill any ordinary vegetable, and that give you fresh food when everyone else is living on canned goods. Stay until crop number 2. It withstands temperatures as low as minus 40 degrees and produces better in harsh conditions than in mild ones. And number 19 gets sweeter and more delicious the colder it gets, with some varieties that can survive under the snow until spring. Like this post if you have a garden or terrace. Subscribe, we post every week. There is an idea that dominates vegetable gardening, and that deserves to be questioned. That winter is a time of waiting, not of production. Our grandparents didn't see it that way. They knew what to plant in the fall to have a harvest in the winter. They knew which roots to leave in the ground because the cold improved them. They knew that some vegetables were simply better after a frost than before. That knowledge didn't disappear because it stopped working. It disappeared because the supermarket made it seem unnecessary. But there's something the supermarket can't give you. A carrot pulled from frozen ground in January that tastes like caramel. A kale cut after 3 frosts that's 3 times sweeter than the summer variety. A turnip that the cold transformed from a tough root into something tender and soft. That's what we're going to look at today. 20 crops that aren't afraid of winter, that need it. 3 things to guide you in this list. First, one of these crops germinates in almost frozen ground, grows during mild winter days, protects the soil from erosion and gives you grain in spring. And if you don't harvest it, it improves your soil as it decomposes. You win either way. Second, there's one vegetable on this list that you can't plant in spring if you want the best results. It absolutely needs to spend the winter in the ground to develop the flavor that makes it special. No cold, no flavor, no patience, no harvest. And third, crop number 19 improves so much with the cold that experienced gardeners don't cut it until after several hard frosts. Before then, it's fine. Afterward, it's extraordinary. Let's begin. Crops 1 through 5. Those that produce when everything else is asleep. Crop number 1. Winter rye. Withstands temperatures down to minus 30 degrees Celsius. The cereal that never stops. It grows when all other grains have already given up. Winter rye is the most cold-hardy cereal in existence. It germinates in soil temperatures as low as 1 degree Celsius and continues to grow during mild winter days when other grains have been dormant for weeks. It can withstand temperatures as low as minus 30 degrees Celsius under the snow, making it virtually unbeatable. But its value extends far beyond the grain itself. It provides living cover that protects the soil from erosion throughout the winter, suppresses weeds, and improves soil structure when plowed into the ground in spring. Cultivation. Sow in autumn before the first frost. It grows during the mild winter days and resumes growth in spring. The grain can be harvested or the green plant material used as compost. Flavor and harvest. The grain ripe in spring can be used for bread, animal feed, or even whiskey production. The green plant, when buried as compost, improves the soil for the next crop. The grain that refuses to give up. While other grains wait for spring, rye is already working. Crop number 2. Winter barley. Withstands temperatures down to minus 40 degrees Celsius and snow. The oldest cereal known to humankind. Winter varieties perform better in harsh conditions than in mild ones. Winter barley may be the hardiest cereal under snow cover, tolerating temperatures as low as minus 40 degrees Celsius. And it has a surprising quality. It performs better in harsh conditions than in mild ones. The plant enters dormancy during the coldest periods, but resumes growth immediately when conditions improve. This ability to pause and restart makes it remarkably resilient in unpredictable winters. Winter barley has been somewhat overlooked in modern agriculture focused on spring sowing, but for those seeking year-round production, it is an exceptionally valuable resource. Cultivation. Sow in autumn. It goes dormant during the coldest periods and resumes growth when the weather warms up. Harvest in spring or early summer. Flavor and harvest, a versatile grain for bread, beer, animal feed, and many culinary uses. The seemingly adverse winter conditions are exactly what this cereal needs to perform at its best. The surprise of this list, the cereal that performs best when it seems to be at its worst. Crop number 3, broad beans. Germinates from 4 degrees Celsius. The legume that prefers the cold. Fresh protein when nothing else offers it. Broad beans are that rare legume that prefers cold to heat. They germinate in soil at 4 degrees Celsius and withstand frost that would destroy any other legume. Rich in protein around 26% by dry weight, they are also nitrogen fixers. They improve the soil as they grow. They can be planted in autumn for an early spring harvest or very early spring for a late spring harvest. They produce when other fresh vegetables are scarce, making them especially valuable for those seeking protein self-sufficiency in cold climates. Cultivation. Sow in autumn for early spring harvest or in early spring for harvest in May or June. They tolerate frost and moderate cold without problems. Flavor and harvest. Fresh shelled, dried for storage, or green as fertilizer. Mediterranean and traditional British cuisine have appreciated broad beans for centuries. Modernity is rediscovering them. Proof that winter doesn't mean giving up fresh protein from the garden. Crop number 4, parsnips. Withstand sub-zero temperatures with mulch, the root that winter needs. Without frost, it lacks its characteristic flavor. Parsnips are one of the most fascinating examples of how cold improves food. Before freezing, they can have a woody and somewhat astringent flavor. After several hard frosts, they transform into something extraordinary, sweet, complex, with that nutty flavor that makes them irreplaceable. The reason is chemical. When the plant freezes, it converts starches into sugars as a natural antifreeze. This process, called cold sweetening, creates the flavor that makes them special, and you can't reproduce it without real cold. Cultivation. Plant in spring, let grow throughout the summer, and leave in the ground during the winter. Harvest as needed throughout the winter and the following spring. With a little mulch, they can withstand temperatures well below freezing. Flavor and harvest. The longer they stay in frozen ground, the better. They don't need refrigeration or a cellar. The earth is their perfect storage. Harvesting them in January or February brings out their maximum sweetness. The vegetable that proves that sometimes the best things require waiting for winter. Crop number 5, leeks. Withstands temperatures down to minus 12 degrees Celsius. The unsung heroes of the winter garden. Standing tall in the garden when everything else is bent over. Leeks are the unsung heroes of the winter garden. They thrive in temperatures as low as minus 12 degrees Celsius, easy to harvest even when other vegetables are buried under snow. And like many brassicas, the cold transforms some of their more intense compounds into milder, sweeter flavors. Winter leeks have a more delicate, less pungent taste than summer leeks, perfect for soups, gratins, and stews. They provide a steady harvest throughout the winter and take up little space for the amount of food they yield. Cultivation. Transplant in summer to harvest from autumn through winter. Some varieties are specifically selected to withstand harsher winters. Flavor and harvest. Harvest as needed, picking the thickest ones first. Essential for leek and potato soup, gratins, and winter broths. Their flavor is noticeably improved by the cold. the allium that refuses to bend before winter, standing tall, harvestable, while the orchard sleeps around it. Herbalists, we've got five crops that produce when the garden seems dormant. Now come the leafy greens, the ones most people abandon in October, but which are actually waiting for the cold weather to show their best. Crops 6 to 10. Leafy greens that thrive in the cold. Crop number 6. Cabbage, kale. Withstands temperatures down to minus 12 degrees Celsius. The cabbage from the southern United States that turns out to be more resistant to cold than kale. Don't let the association of collard greens with southern cuisine fool you about their cold resistance. They can withstand temperatures as low as minus 12 degrees Celsius, and like all brassicas, they taste better after freezing. Kale is more famous, but collard greens surpass them in hardiness under many conditions. Because they don't form a tight head, they are less vulnerable to freezing damage at the heart. The loose leaves shed the snow and ice. You can harvest leaf by leaf throughout the winter, allowing the plant to continue producing. Rich in vitamins A, C, and K, calcium and iron, winter collard greens also have a higher nutrient density than summer collard greens. Cultivation. Plant in summer for autumn and winter. Harvest. Harvest outer leaves, leaving the heart to continue producing. Tolerates repeated snow and frost. Flavor and harvest. Winter leaves are more tender and sweeter than summer leaves, perfect for stews, stir-fries, soups, and smoothies. Science shows that brassicas under cold stress produce higher levels of glucosinolates, compounds beneficial to health. Hardier than kale, more nutritious in winter than in summer. The plant that has been undervalued for ages. Crop number 7. Leaf mustard. Withstands temperatures down to minus 9 degrees Celsius. Spicy in summer, complex and nuanced in winter, the cold completely transforms its character. Leaf mustard does something curious with the cold. It softens its characteristic sharpness. The summer leaves can be almost aggressively peppery. The winter leaves are nuanced, complex, and delicious, both raw and cooked. The cold doesn't just make them more palatable, it makes them better. It grows quickly, sometimes ready to harvest in 40 or 50 days, allowing for successive sowings throughout the autumn for continuous harvest during the winter. It's very productive in a small space and rich in nutrients when the rest of the garden is dormant. Cultivation. Successive sowings in autumn every 2 or 3 weeks for staggered harvesting. Tolerates frost and moderate sub-zero temperatures. Flavor and harvest. Winter leaves are milder and more complex than summer ones, raw in salads, sautéed, or in soups. Winter isn't bland. It's where the most interesting flavors reside. Winter is not a time for bland flavors. Leaf mustard proves it every year. Crop number 8. Arugula. Withstands temperatures down to minus 6 degrees Celsius with protection. The salad that changes personality with the cold. In winter, it's almost a different plant. Winter arugula is practically a different vegetable than its summer counterpart. Summer arugula can be almost unbearably peppery and bitter in the heat. Winter arugula is mild, nutty, and complex, a distinct vegetable. The cold slows its growth, resulting in more tender leaves and softening the compounds that make summer arugula so challenging. Ready to harvest in 30 to 40 days, it's one of the fastest growing cool season leafy greens. It can be cut and regrown from multiple harvests. With minimal protection, such as a plastic tunnel or cold greenhouse, you can harvest fresh arugula all winter long. Cultivation. Sow in autumn. With a cold tunnel or unheated greenhouse, it can withstand fairly harsh winters. Cut back and allow to regrow for multiple harvests. Flavor and harvest. Winter leaves are infinitely softer and more appealing than summer leaves. Fresh winter salads that no greenhouse lettuce can match in flavor. The winter salad that proves the cold doesn't impoverish the garden, it improves it. Crop number 9. Chard. Withstands temperatures down to -9 degrees Celsius. The rainbow of the winter garden. As beautiful as it is hardy. Swiss chard is one of the most beautiful and hardy winter crops. Its colorful stalks, red, yellow, orange, white, bring life to the garden when everything else is brown and gray. It can withstand temperatures as low as -9 degrees Celsius and has a remarkable ability to recover. The leaves may look damaged after a hard frost, but the plant sprouts back from the heart as soon as conditions improve. A single sowing provides harvest for months. Rich in vitamins K, A, and C, as well as magnesium, potassium, and iron, winter Swiss chard tends to be more nutrient-dense than summer Swiss chard. Cultivation. Plant in summer for autumn and winter. Harvest. Harvest outer leaves, leaving the core. It recovers quickly after frost when the weather improves. Flavor and harvest. Versatile in the kitchen. Stir-fried, in soups, in quiches. The colorful stems are so decorative that it's worth having if only for its beauty. But the beauty here comes with nutrition. Proof that a winter garden can be beautiful and productive at the same time. Crop number 10. Turnips. Withstands temperatures down to -12 degrees Celsius. Double harvest, leaves and root. The cold transforms the root from something rough to something sweet and tender. Turnips are one of the most underrated crops in the winter garden. They can withstand temperatures as low as -12 degrees Celsius with some mulch and undergo the same cold sweetening process as parsnips. Starches are converted into sugars, transforming the root from something slightly bitter into something sweet and mild. But they also offer a double harvest. Turnip greens are excellent, similar to mustard but milder, and can be harvested repeatedly before the root matures. One crop, 2 harvests, all winter long. Cultivation. Sow in summer for autumn and winter harvest. Harvest leaves first as they grow. Leave the root in the ground to allow the cold to sweeten it. Harvest the root when needed. Flavor and harvest. Raw turnips are crisp and slightly sweet in winter. Roasted, they caramelize beautifully. The leaves are nutritious and delicious sautéed. Turnip puree or au gratin are top-notch winter comfort dishes. The crop that proves that what seemed outdated deserves a second chance when you cultivate it well. Stop for a moment, herbalists. We're up to 10. And there's something I want you to see clearly before we continue. Most of these plants don't just survive the cold, they need it to reach their full potential. That seemingly devastating frost is converting starches into sugars. It's softening bitterness, it's concentrating nutrients. It's transforming that vegetable that was mediocre in summer into something extraordinary. The cold is not the enemy of the vegetable garden. For these plants, it's the time when they grow big. Now come the roots, bulbs, and legumes. Those that store themselves underground, and those you need to plant in autumn to harvest months later. Crops 11 to 15. The roots and bulbs that the cold perfects. Crop number 11. Brussels sprouts. Withstands temperatures down to -9 degrees Celsius. The vegetable that needs winter to taste its best. Without frost, they're just not the same. Brussels sprouts are the ultimate example of a crop that needs cold weather to reach its full potential. Before frost, they can be slightly bitter and intense. After frost, they are sweet, nutty, and complex. It's the same sweetening process we've seen in other brassicas, but in Brussels sprouts, the change is so dramatic that many experienced gardeners simply don't harvest them until after several hard frosts. The plant produces dozens of sprouts per stalk over an extended period, and they can be harvested fresh throughout the winter. Cultivation. Plant in spring or summer for harvesting from autumn to late winter. They withstand repeated snow and frost without problems. Harvest from the bottom of the stem upwards. Flavor and harvest. Brussels sprouts roasted in winter, after the frost, are completely different from those boiled in summer. caramelized, sweet, without the sulfurous bitterness. Many people who say they hate Brussels sprouts have never tasted a well-prepared winter variety. Vegetables are finally getting the respect they deserve. All we had to do was wait for the cold weather and know how to cook them. Crop number 12. Beetroot. Withstands frost with mulch. The root that stores itself underground. Your personal refrigerator in the garden. Beetroot is surprisingly hardy for a root vegetable. It withstands multiple hard frosts, and the roots survive in frozen soil with a little protective mulch. What that means in practical terms is that you have fresh beetroot on demand all winter long. Plant it in summer, let it grow in autumn, and leave it in the ground as your own personal underground pantry. Beetroot leaves are a bonus crop that many people don't take advantage of. They're more cold hardy than the roots and nutritionally comparable to chard and spinach. Winter beetroot tends to be sweeter and more tender than summer beetroot. Cultivation. Sow in summer for autumn and winter harvest. Cover with mulch in colder areas. Harvest roots and leaves as needed throughout the winter. Flavor and harvest. Winter roots are sweeter. The high nitrate content improves blood flow and physical performance. The leaves are as nutritious as chard. Roasted beets in winter caramelize beautifully. The refrigerator that doesn't use electricity and improves the taste of what it stores. Crop number 13. Winter radishes. Withstands temperatures down to -4 degrees Celsius. These aren't your average spring radishes. They're something else entirely. Bigger, more complex, more versatile. Winter radishes are nothing like the small spring radishes. Japanese daikon, watermelon radish, and Spanish black radish are substantial vegetables. Some can reach several kilos. They keep excellently both in the ground during the winter and in storage after harvest, and their flavors range from mild and sweet to spicy and intense. Daikon is a staple in Asian cuisine. Watermelon radish is visually stunning with its pink interior. Black radish has a robust flavor, perfect for winter cooking. Cultivation. Sow in summer for autumn and winter harvest. Ready in 60 to 70 days. Very productive in a small space. Flavor and harvest. Raw in salads, fermented in kimchi or other preparations, pickled or cooked. Daikon is the base of traditional kimchi. Grated black radish is an exceptional winter condiment. The radish that proves that humble vegetables can be stars when you really know them. Crop number 14. Winter peas. Withstands temperatures down to -4 degrees Celsius. Autumn sowing that gives you peas weeks before anyone else in spring. Peas are generally classified as a spring crop, but cold hardy varieties planted in autumn completely change that equation. The seedlings establish themselves before the first hard frosts, spend the winter in a semi-dormant state, and as soon as the spring warmth arrives, they burst into growth and production, giving you peas weeks earlier than those planted in spring. In climates with mild winters, they even produce throughout the winter. The flavor of cold-sown peas is exceptional. The natural sugars are preserved by the cold, while heat quickly converts them to starch. Cultivation. Plant in autumn. Seedlings overwinter. In spring, they grow and produce weeks earlier than spring-sown peas. Flavor and harvest. Cold weather peas are noticeably sweeter and more tender. The first peas of the year are one of the best times in the garden calendar. Autumn sowing, that brings you the first joys of spring. Crop number 15. Spinach. Withstands temperatures down to -9 degrees Celsius. The invincible green. It stops in winter, starts in spring, and harvests when everything else is just beginning. Spinach is surprisingly cold hardy. It grows quickly in the cool autumn, then almost stops in winter but remains alive and healthy, enduring the garden. As spring approaches, it resumes vigorous growth, giving you harvest just as spring crops are being planted. Studies show that cold stress increases the production of vitamin C and antioxidants. Your winter spinach doesn't just survive, it's more nutritious than summer spinach. With successive autumn sowings, you can have spinach at different stages of development for staggered harvests throughout the winter. Cultivation. So every 2 to 3 weeks in autumn for staggered harvests. It withstands frost and sub-zero temperatures. It regrows vigorously in spring. Flavor and harvest. Whether raw in salads or cooked, winter spinach has better flavor and higher nutrient density than summer spinach. It's one of the few leafy greens that actually improves with the cold. The green that proves that nutritive power can grow fresh even in winter. Herbalists, we've reached the last 5. And these are the great classics of the winter storage. The ones our grandparents never failed to plant. And the last one of all, the carrot, is the definitive argument in favor of the winter garden. Crop number 16. Garlic. Withstands very sub-zero temperatures. The only crop that not only tolerates winter, but absolutely needs it. Garlic is unique on this list because it not only tolerates winter, but needs it. It absolutely requires a period of cold, called vernalization, to form bulbs properly. It's planted in autumn, takes root before winter, survives the frost, and produces bulbs in spring and early summer. Hardneck varieties are especially cold resistant, withstanding temperatures well below freezing. In spring, they also produce the scapes, those delicious curly stalks. Homegrown garlic has an intensity of flavor that supermarket garlic simply can't match, especially specialty varieties like Russian Red, Music, or German Extra Hard. Cultivation. Plant cloves in autumn, spaced apart and at a good depth. Minimal care required in winter. Harvest in summer when the leaves begin to dry. Flavor and harvest. Each planted clove grows into a bulb with several cloves. Homegrown garlic stores for months. Spring shoots are a delicious bonus harvest. The return on investment is exceptional. The plant proves that sometimes the best results require trusting the process through the winter. Crop number 17. Winter onion. Withstands significant cold. The same philosophy as garlic. Plant in autumn, survive the winter, harvest before anyone else. Winter onion varieties follow the same logic as garlic. Sow in autumn, overwinter, grow in spring, and harvest in early summer, earlier than spring-sown onions. Furthermore, in mild winter climates, they produce fresh spring onions during the winter before they form bulbs. Varieties bred for overwintering tend to be sweet, mild, and exceptional for eating fresh. Onions are fundamental in virtually every cuisine in the world. Growing your own, with the varieties you choose and the methods you control, is part of true food self-sufficiency. Cultivation. Plant in autumn. They grow during the mild winter days. They produce fresh spring onions in mild climates. Bulbs are ready in early summer. Flavor and harvest. Winter varieties tend to be sweeter and milder. They ripen earlier than spring varieties, extending the window of self-sufficiency, essential for cooking and preserving. This crop proves that food self-sufficiency starts with the basics, and the basics can be grown in winter. Crop number 18, winter cabbage. Withstands temperatures down to -9 degrees Celsius, a staple in the traditional pantry. Winter enhances its flavor, and its long storage life makes it indispensable. Winter cabbage is legendary for its cold resistance. Storage varieties are the hardiest of all. They can withstand temperatures as low as -9 degrees Celsius, and their tightly packed heads actually improve with the autumn chill, developing sweeter, more complex flavors. The head structure is perfectly designed for winter. The tightly packed leaves allow water and ice to drain away. The outer leaves protect the heart, and it can endure multiple freeze-thaw cycles that would destroy less hardy crops. Cabbage is also the basis of some of the oldest and most effective preserving techniques. Sauerkraut and kimchi are fermented foods that have been feeding humanity through the winter for centuries. Cultivation. Plant in summer for autumn and winter harvest. The heads keep in the garden through early winter and can be stored in a cellar for months. Flavor and harvest. Rich in vitamin C and K, fiber, and glucosinolates with protective potential. Enjoy raw, cooked, or fermented as sauerkraut or kimchi. Fermentation multiplies the benefits and extends its shelf life for months. Classics are classics for a reason, and winter cabbage has been proving its worth for centuries. Crop number 19, kale. Withstands temperatures down to minus 12 degrees Celsius. The superfood that's even more super in winter than in summer. The cold completely transforms it. Kale is perhaps the best known example of how cold weather improves vegetables. It can withstand temperatures as low as minus 12 degrees Celsius, and its flavor improves dramatically after freezing. Before frost, it can be somewhat bitter and tough. After several hard frosts, it becomes sweet, tender, and absolutely delicious. The cold triggers the same conversion of starch to sugar that we've seen in other brassicas. But in kale, the change is so pronounced that many experienced gardeners simply don't harvest it until after several hard frosts. Winter kale has a higher nutrient density than summer kale. The nutrition is more concentrated, the flavor is better, and the texture is more tender. This isn't marketing hype. It's a measurable difference. Cultivation. Plant in summer for autumn, winter, and early spring harvest. Do not harvest until after the first hard frost for best flavor. Harvest outer leaves, leaving the heart to continue producing. Flavor and harvest, roasted, sautéed, or blended winter kale is significantly better than summer kale. Vitamins A, C, and K, calcium, and antioxidants are more concentrated than in summer. It's genuinely superior, not just different. The superfood that becomes truly super when the cold weather arrives. Plant kale for winter, not for summer. Crop number 20, carrots. It stands in frozen soil with mulch, the perfect ending to this list. The carrot that tastes like caramel, pulled from frozen soil in January. And here we are, crop number 20th. And I've saved it for last because carrots represent all the magic of winter gardening. Like parsnips, they undergo a dramatic sweetening in the cold. Starches convert to sugars, creating carrots that are noticeably sweeter and tastier than anything you can buy in a store. A carrot pulled from frozen ground in January can be so sweet it almost tastes like candy. They're planted in summer, grow through autumn, and are left in the ground all winter like your own personal underground refrigerator. The soil retains the perfect moisture and temperature better than any storage system. They're harvested fresh as needed throughout the winter and well into spring. Cultivation. Sow in summer for autumn and winter harvest. Cover with thick mulch in very cold areas. Harvest throughout the winter as needed. They do not require storage or refrigeration. Flavor and harvest. Winter carrots have a higher sugar content and a greater concentration of beta-carotene and antioxidants. The flavor of a homegrown carrot pulled from frozen ground is so different from that of supermarket carrots that anyone who tries it becomes a winter gardener. The root that proves the best flavor comes from working with winter, not against it. The ultimate argument for the winter garden. 20 crops, and all with the same message behind them. Winter is not the enemy of the garden. For these plants, it's the condition that makes them what they are. That frost that seems devastating is converting starches into sugars. It's softening bitterness. It's concentrating nutrients. It's creating flavors that no summer growing technique can replicate. Our grandparents knew this. They planted in the fall. They left the roots in the ground. They waited for the frost to harvest the best. This knowledge wasn't superstition. It was observation accumulated over generations, and it remains completely valid. All you need is soil, seeds, and knowing when to plant. True food security doesn't come from depending on the supermarket. It comes from understanding the entire year's cycle and taking advantage of it. Herbalists, tell me in the comments which of these 20 you already have in your garden or on your terrace, and which one you're going to try this fall. Are you on team roots like parsnips and carrots, team greens like kale and spinach, or team bulbs like garlic and leeks? I read every comment without exception. And I learned so much from your experiences in the garden because years of gardening is knowledge that can't be found in any book. If this video has changed your perspective on winter gardening, please give it a like. Help more people discover that the growing season doesn't end in October.